Hello everyone, and welcome back to Truck Talk with Liz. I'm your host, Liz Astor, and I hope that you're all doing well and feeling at ease. This is our 4th episode, and I've been looking forward to it ever since we wrapped up our last drive. If you're new here, this is a little online show where I take you along on my trucking trips in Euro Truck Simulator 2, and we chat about all sorts of things in a calm, laid-back way. Before we get going, I want to mention something very special. We have hit 10 subscribers on this channel. I know that might not sound like a big number by some standards, but I cannot even remember the last time I managed to gather 10 people in a room to just listen to me talking. Having 10 of you here, ready to tune in and keep me company, means a lot. Thank you so very much for deciding to hop on this journey with me. Every one of you has given me a tiny nudge to keep talking, keep driving, and keep sharing these moments. Thank you from the very bottom of my heart for being here. If this is your first time watching, let me introduce my usual traveling companions. We have Mish the Fish, a shark plushie who normally sits right next to me in the co-driver's seat. Mish is a big anime and manga enthusiast and has a boundless interest in art, history, culture, people, food, the works. Andre, the stoic ornament skull dangling from the rearview mirror. He's well read and loves correcting me whenever I get something wrong. And then there's Maxwell, the cat who does all the typical cat things, such as napping, pawing at interesting objects, and gazing out the window with that distant stare that only cats can master. However, as some of you might recall from a previous episode, Mish the Fish had a bit of an accident. He got one of his flippers caught in the truck door. He is fine, he just needs some time to recover back home, so please do send him all your positive thoughts for a swift healing period. We miss him, and I'm sure he's missing the open road too. Last time, Maxwell took Mish's seat, but today we have another surprise occupant of the passenger side, Mark the Shark. Mark is Mish's twin brother, and he's a bit different from Mish. He has more of a jock vibe, loves a lively party, and might not be the type to spend the day reading about historical events or analyzing complex recipes, but he's definitely got a big heart. We're happy to have him here for his first appearance, so everyone say hi to Mark. Mark, thank you for sitting in for your brother. I'm sure you've got your own style to bring to this traveling talk show. Feel free to chime in whenever you like, just don't get into too much mischief, okay? Alright, so today we have a pretty long trip ahead of us. We're hauling a pressure tank from right here in Messina, on the island of Sicily in Italy, all the way north to Swinoujscie in Poland. It's springtime, March to be exact, so we're expecting a mix of sunshine, possibly some rain, and who knows, even maybe a touch of chillier air once we start heading further up the European continent. We'll be rolling through several regions in Italy, crossing into Austria, then through Germany, and finally to Poland. As always, I'll guide you through each region as we pass by. Sometimes we'll talk about the local vibes of the city or province, or a small anecdote that I might know about it. But the main topic we're going to chat about today is something a bit academic, cognitive science. Don't let the term scare you. It's the study of how our minds work, seen from various angles. We'll dive deep into it bit by bit in a relaxing manner. Because I like to keep things interesting, I'll be weaving in a short mention of a film, an anime, and a book I've experienced recently. In fact, I wrote little reviews of each one, which I'll share at some point so you can get my thoughts and see if you're curious about any one of them. But first, let's get this show on the road, literally. Our truck is humming softly, we have an invisible fresh cup of tea in the cup holder, and Mark the Shark is strapped in with the seatbelt. Let's leave Messina behind and begin our journey. Messina is a port city known for its close proximity to the Italian mainland. The waters here are crucial for ferry connections, and from a driving simulator perspective, we occasionally take a ferry to get across. Messina's history stretches back centuries, with influences from ancient times. It's also near the tip of Sicily, which is a vibrant region of Italy with a strong sense of identity. We're right at the beginning of our route, and the roads here feel comfortable. Sunlight is coming through the windshield, making the cabin pleasantly warm. Maxwell is perched on the dashboard, staring out at passing cars. Mark is probably daydreaming about the next time he can catch some raucous sporting event or check out a lively club. Meanwhile, Andre is quietly keeping an eye on the route. Let's talk a bit about how our day is going. I'm feeling pretty good, excited about discussing cognitive science in a gentle way that hopefully won't be too overwhelming. I also want to remind everyone to keep Mish in your thoughts. We want him to heal that flipper so he can come back soon. If you'd like, you can write your wishes in the comments. I'm sure that Mish will read them. We can catch a distant view of Mount Etna, that distinctive volcano on the eastern side of Sicily. It's an imposing presence in real life. Historically, it has played a huge role in shaping the region's geology. Active lava flows have, over time, enriched the surrounding soil, making the area fruitful for agriculture. This place carries a lot of significance for local communities. But let me start our chat about cognitive science. In the simplest terms, cognitive science is all about studying mind and intelligence from multiple angles. Psychologists, philosophers, neuroscientists, linguists, and anthropologists all get involved. They want to understand how we think, how we process information, and how our mental representations form. The field began to take shape in the 1950s when researchers started forming theories of mind that used complex data structures and computational ideas. By the 1970s, the Cognitive Science Society was formed, and today many universities have programs in the field. Don't worry, I'll break this down into manageable pieces as we drive. Right now, think of it like a big puzzle with many areas of study that connect together to reveal something about how our minds handle the world. Now we're heading up towards Palermo, which is the capital of Sicily. It has a long heritage that includes influences from various cultures: Arab, Norman, Spanish, and so forth. The city is known for its architecture and for an incredible variety of local dishes. If you ever get the chance to visit, the food scene is definitely worth your time. Perhaps Mish the Fish, our culture-loving plushie, could have told you all about the famous street food and historical monuments, but Mark might just say, "Yeah, that sounds delicious, let's go get some." Different personalities, but both are fun. Next, a bit of history of cognitive science. Trying to understand the mind goes back to ancient philosophers like Plato and Aristotle. For centuries, the study of mind was largely in the realm of philosophy. In the 1800s, experimental psychology emerged thanks to people like Wilhelm Wundt, who tried to systematically study thought processes in a lab. Then along came behaviorism, which practically dismissed the idea of mind, claiming psychology should focus on observable stimuli and responses. That was dominant in the first half of the 1900s. But around 1956, researchers such as George Miller and Noam Chomsky challenged the idea that mind didn't matter. They studied memory limits, mental representation, language, and so on. Meanwhile, John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, Alan Newell, and Herbert Simon were laying down the foundation for artificial intelligence. These collaborations and new ideas gave birth to the modern field of cognitive science. Alright, we're making our way up the coast. Napoli is one of the most populous cities in Italy and is famous for being the birthplace of pizza. Yes, the classic pizza napolitana. The port of Naples is historically significant too, as it has been a major gateway for trade. Mark might be excited by the thought of grabbing a slice of authentic pizza after a night out dancing. Andre, on the other hand, would probably point out details about the port's connections to maritime commerce. Maxwell, well, he might just be hoping for a piece of fish. Now we're driving through Lazio, the region that contains Rome, or Roma in Italian. Rome has an unparalleled heritage, from the Colosseum to the Pantheon. There's so much to see and do, and you can almost sense the weight of history in the air. The roads around here in real life can be busy, but in this simulator it's just me, the truck, and the open route. Let's discuss the methods in cognitive science. Scholars in cognitive psychology often run experiments on volunteers, frequently undergraduates fulfilling course requirements. They'll test how people reason deductively, how they form concepts, how long they take to perform mental rotation tasks, and how they solve problems with analogies. They compare the data to theoretical models that assume mental representations and procedures. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence folks build computational models that simulate certain aspects of human cognition. Linguists, especially in the Chomskyan tradition, look for grammatical structures that apply across languages. Neuroscientists observe brain activity using MRI or other scanning methods. Cognitive anthropologists try to figure out how people from different cultures think. Philosophers handle more abstract questions, like how mind relates to body or what counts as a good explanation of mental processes. Put it all together, and you get this broad, interdisciplinary field that tries to figure out how thinking happens, both in our heads and in the context of society, culture, and technology. We've ventured now through Umbria, famous for rolling hills and medieval towns. After a bit, we arrive in Tuscany, known for its scenic views and remarkable artistic heritage, especially in cities like Florence. I'm stopping for a quick refuel. Let's pull over at the service station up ahead. We are all set with a full tank now, so we can comfortably keep driving. That's one of the joys of these longer trips. You get to see the roads change from region to region, and even though it's virtual, there is a sense of forward motion that feels real. We're going near Firenze, Florence, known for its art and architecture. It's often called the cradle of the Renaissance. The city's museums hold so many masterpieces. I'm sure Mish would have gone wild with excitement over the rich cultural background. Mark might prefer an upbeat local festival, but I think he'd still appreciate an iconic statue or two. From there, we head into Emilia-Romagna, which is another region celebrated for its food culture. Parma ham and Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, to name just a couple of specialties. Speaking of Parma, we're passing not too far from it. I mentioned that in cognitive science there is this broad idea that the mind works with representations, sort of like data, and computations, sort of like algorithms. That's the fundamental idea, but how exactly these representations are structured is debated. Some propose they resemble logical sentences. Others say they might be rules, for example, if this, then that. Others highlight the importance of concepts or images. Another perspective is connectionism, which draws inspiration from the way neurons are connected in the brain. No single approach has all the answers, but each tries to explain certain aspects of cognition. For instance, rule-based systems do well in simulating planning or problem-solving. Concept-based models might show how we classify objects and generalize. Connectionist systems are good at pattern recognition and parallel processing. Then there's theoretical neuroscience, which aims for a more biologically accurate account of how neurons carry out cognitive tasks. Now we drift past Suzzara, a small town in the province of Mantua. Then, eventually, we will move into Lombardy, which contains Milan, one of Italy's main financial and fashion centers. Maxwell is starting to wander around again, possibly looking for a vantage point to watch the traffic slip by. Mark's eyes, well, if Plush Sharks had eyes that blinked, might be getting a little heavy, but he's determined to stay awake. We continue north, passing into Veneto, famous for Venice, though we might not see it in this route. After that, we will approach Trentino South Tyrol, a region in northeastern Italy known for mountainous terrains and bilingual culture, Italian and German in many areas. The roads become more winding there, scenic in real life. The air can get cooler too, though in the simulator we mainly see changes in the visual design. And now, here we go, crossing the border into Austria. The region is Tyrol, with the city of Innsbruck nestled among impressive peaks. The sun is beginning to sink lower on the horizon, and before we know it, nighttime will arrive, just after we leave Innsbruck behind us. I'm going to flick on the headlights, and the interior of the truck is going to look cozier in the dark, with the faint glow of the dashboard lights. Another big part of modern cognitive science is the shift towards combining neuroscience with psychology. Brain scans can reveal which areas light up during various tasks, whether it's thinking about words, visualizing shapes, or making decisions. Researchers try to unify the knowledge from different subfields, like how artificial intelligence might provide a model for representation, while neuroscience shows us how actual neurons might carry that out. There are also Bayesian models, which view the mind as doing probabilistic reasoning to figure out the best hypothesis about reality. Or you have deep learning, the technique behind recent artificial intelligence breakthroughs, which relies on multi-layer neural networks. That approach has generated remarkable results in game playing, image recognition, and more. Some wonder if that's how our brains might handle certain tasks too, although we're still figuring that out. And then there's predictive processing, where the mind is seen as a prediction engine, always comparing what it expects to perceive with what it's actually perceiving and acting to reduce any mismatch. We're crossing into Germany now, specifically the region of Bavaria. We will pass near Munich, and we will notice the roads getting wider and well maintained. In real life, Munich is known for Oktoberfest, its architecture, and tech hubs. I can imagine Mark might dream of going to a lively beer hall once we park, while Andre would probably mention a historical fact about the city's founding. Maxwell, unconcerned, just peers out the window at the passing night lights. Soon we approach Nuremberg. This city has significant historical importance and also a charming old quarter. The simulator might show glimpses of the city's main roads, and as we pass the Nuremberg city center, I notice the patter of raindrops on the windshield. Our forecast said it might rain, and here it is. I'll switch on the wipers for better visibility. So, we've talked about a broad outline of how the mind might be structured, from logic-based theories to rule-based, concept-based, analogical, imagery-driven, connectionist, theoretical, neuroscience, Bayesian, and deep learning approaches. Each gives us a different window on how we understand language, solve problems, remember information, or reason about the world. But cognitive science also has a philosophical dimension. It touches on big questions. Are mental states simply brain states? Do we have free will, or are our choices determined by neural events? Where do emotions fit in? How does consciousness come into play? Some people argue that the classical mind as computer approach ignores embodiment or emotions or social interactions. Others try to incorporate all these factors into computational or neural frameworks. We press on through the darkness and the drizzle, moving into Thuringia, a region often referred to as the green heart of Germany because of its forests. Even though it's raining now and it's quite dark, there's something calming about the soft hiss of the wipers and the truck's steady rumble. The route extends until we hit Saxony-Anhalt. Right around now, dawn starts to break. The rain is still falling, but the sky is getting lighter. Eventually, the new day arrives, our second day of driving for this trip. Mark lifts a plush fin to greet the morning. Maxwell looks less than amused by the early hour, while Andre remains quiet. Let's talk about some philosophical applications of cognitive science. One big area is the question of how knowledge is acquired. Is it innate or learned? Another is about mental representation. Does the brain have some sort of language-like structure, or is it all spread out in networks of neurons? Then there's the question of how we interpret each other's minds. Do we simulate them, or do we hold a sort of theory about them? We also wonder about meaning. How do our mental representations actually gain significance? And how is that connected to the external world or to communicate with other thinkers? Another big question is consciousness. Can it be explained by neural activity, or is there something else going on? pass near Halle Saale, a city known for its university and for being a cultural center in this part of Germany. The roads here are no longer drenched in darkness, but the sky is a bit grey from the lingering rain. Maxwell stretches and jumps onto the seat behind me. Mark tries to look out the side window in curiosity, though he remains strapped in for safety. And on we go, across Brandenburg, a state that surrounds the capital, Berlin. Berlin itself is a huge city with a rich, complicated history. It's still raining at this moment, so we get that moody vibe that a drizzly morning in a big city can bring. Buildings, wide streets, and the passing shapes of cars all form a steady movement around us. Mark might daydream about a vibrant Berlin nightclub, while Andre might bring up historical details of the Berlin Wall. Maxwell remains quietly fascinated by it all. shortly after we make it through the city center, the rain will halt, the sky will clear in patches, and the roads will begin to dry. It will be nice to hear the wipers squeak a few final times before I finally switch them off. The day feels fresh, and we press onward. Now, for the final piece on cognitive science's philosophical relevance. Some philosophers criticize the field for focusing too much on representation and computation, ignoring emotions or consciousness or social interaction. Others say we should incorporate these elements within computational or neural models. Another common debate is whether psychological explanations will one day be reduced to neuroscience alone, or if we'll always need a distinct level of explanation to talk about thoughts and mental procedures. What's clear is that the blending of psychology, neuroscience, linguistics, philosophy, anthropology, and artificial intelligence studies have produced meaningful progress in understanding the mind. There's no single unified theory yet, but many angles are being explored, each adding new perspectives. Now, I promised I'd pause to share 3 short reviews of things I recently watched or read. Let's do that right now, while we're cruising under the brighter skies and heading towards Poland. First, the film, Grand Theft Hamlet. I checked out this film by Piney Grills and Sam Crane. Let me tell you, it was wild, in a good way. Everything unfolds inside a massive online environment. They basically used Grand Theft Auto to stage a production of Shakespeare's Hamlet. The result is hilarious, surreal, and somehow gripping. There's a part where they addition random online players, which leads to the funniest chaos. I loved the commentary on how the bleak virtual violence of Grand Theft Auto mirrors the violence in Shakespeare's plays. It's also strangely heartfelt, capturing the gloom of the lockdown period when actors were out of work. The final production of Hamlet roams throughout the digital city, accompanied by an atmospheric soundtrack. It's reminiscent of modern twists on Shakespeare and even has notes that recall Douglas Adams' sense of humor. I found it thoroughly enjoyable and surprisingly tender. Then, the anime. Cherry magic, 30 years of virginity can make you a wizard? This one follows Adachi, who, at 30 years old, is still a virgin and gains the ability to hear people's thoughts when he touches them. It might sound silly at first, but it turns out to be a super sweet narrative, especially when Adachi discovers that his attractive co-worker Kurosawa is into him. I loved seeing 2 men in a relationship that's both humorous and heartwarming, with actual communication about their feelings. It explores closeted life, the anxieties around revealing oneself, and how mind reading becomes a symbol for those experiences. The comedic notes blend well with deeper emotional threads. I only wished it adapted more of the manga, but it still stands out as a gem if you want a wholesome romance with a touch of magic. And then finally, the book, Softcore by Brittany Newell. Softcore follows Ruth, a 27-year-old living in a Victorian house in San Francisco. She's also known as Baby at a strip club and Sunday at a separate dungeon job. The novel reveals different layers of her life, from eating leftover tiramisu while watching TV to partying with a married lawyer in his fancy condo. The city is described in vivid detail, giving a sense of daily existence that's both messy and full of small wonders. The plot includes cryptic emails, mysterious financial transactions, a new dancer at the club who copies Ruth's perfume, called Softcore, and the disappearance of Ruth's ex-boyfriend Dino. The pacing moves quickly, diving into the physical reality of places, scents, and personal encounters. Even if some threads aren't tidied up neatly at the end, the final sections feel satisfyingly open. It's raw, full of energy, and brimming with a sense that you can't quite predict what will happen next. I personally enjoyed how the city of San Francisco felt truly present. Those are my quick takes. If any of those appeal to you, I recommend checking them out. It's always nice to sample different kinds of media, films, anime, books, especially while traveling, real or virtual. Back to the drive, we're almost at the final stretch in Germany now, traveling through Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, a region that has scenic coastlines if you head north to the Baltic Sea. The roads are looking brighter as midday approaches again. I'm making decent time with this cargo, and Mark is surprisingly calm, maybe daydreaming about ways to celebrate once we reach our destination. And now, at last, we've arrived in Poland. We have some hours to go to reach Swinoujscie, but it's our final country on this route. The roads are fairly well maintained, and the simulator captures some of the local scenery. We might pass farmland, occasional industrial areas, and small towns. Let's tie up our conversation on cognitive science. We can think of it as a large umbrella concept. Each specialized branch, psychology, artificial intelligence, linguistics, neuroscience, anthropology, and philosophy, brings unique techniques and theories. When they intersect, we get new suggestions for how minds might represent and process information. We also get challenges, as some propose that the mind is best understood in terms of emotion, physical embodiment, and the social realm, while others think a computational perspective is enough to account for these factors. No matter what side you lean toward, the study of cognition is incredibly diverse. It helps us analyze everything from how we learned languages to how we develop technology that mimics thought. Whether you're a casual observer or a serious researcher, it's a fascinating subject with practical applications like designing better learning strategies or creating more intuitive software. I hope this gentle talk about cognitive science gave you something to think about, how the mind can be studied from angles that include experiments, computational modeling, philosophical questions, and cross-cultural observations. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I find it calming to talk about these ideas while on the move, focusing on the road while letting the conversation flow naturally. And lo and behold, we've made it. After countless kilometers, crossing multiple borders, refueling, weather changes, day turning into night turning back to day, we finally pulled into Swinoujscie. Thank you again for joining me on this journey from Messina up to Swinoujscie. We went through Italy, saw the shift from day to night around Innsbruck, encountered rain after Nuremberg, and got a fresh morning after Saxony-Anhalt. It was a long route, but having you along made it feel like a friendly drive. Now, before we wrap up, I'd love to hear what you want me to talk about next time. There's a poll in my post where you can vote on potential topics or suggest your own. Should we chat about something else, about the realm of research? Maybe we can turn it into something more personal. Let me know. Also, if you have a moment, please wish Mish the Fish a speedy recovery. We miss having him here in the co-driver's seat. Mark the Shark did a great job filling in, but it would be wonderful to have Mish back too. And once again, my heartfelt thanks for helping me reach 10 subscribers. That might seem small in the giant world of online content, but for me, it's a true achievement. Getting 10 people in a room is hard enough, so I'm genuinely thrilled that you're all here. Each of you is special, and every like, comment, or share encourages me to keep driving and keep talking. I appreciate you more than words can ever say. With that, I'll sign off. This has been Truck Talk with Liz, with me, Liz Astor, your calm and chatty driver. Mark the Shark says a silent goodbye. Maxwell gives a curious look, and Andre, I think he's just proud we all got our facts straight this time. We'll see you in the next episode, friends. Remember to check out that poll, rest up, stay curious, and never forget to be kind. Take care, everyone. See you on for the next ride.